Yo, what's going on everybody? AA Ryan here and welcome back to PanNerdia and welcome to the new series, Let's Paint. Now, today I'm going to teach you how to paint Goku riding the Flying Nimbus. So, let's get started with the materials, shall we? First, you'll need a 24 by 18 inch canvas. Go ahead and tone it with some gray, mix together some white and black paint. Speaking of paint, we're going to be using acrylics, and here's a list I got for you. You can find these in the store or online with these names: bright red, chrome yellow, phthalo blue, cadmium orange, burnt umber, Mars black, and titanium white. Now, don't let those names intimidate you. Those are the names you'll find in the paints, but those are the typical colors: red, yellow, blue, orange, brown, black, and white. Alright. You'll also need some brushes. Go ahead and grab two small detailing brushes, a round 0 and a round 2. Alright, you can get various lengths of handles, as well as a flat 5 brush. It's going to be a little bigger, but it's going to be a flat bristled, and a flat number 10. It's going to be your big flat brush to really paint in the background, block in color, etc. Get your water to clean your brushes, and some paper towels or old t-shirt or rag or something to wipe off the brush. Alright? Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Be sure to pause this video if you need to stop on any step going forward, alright? Now, step 1, we're going to go ahead and sketch Goku. Grab your number 2 round brush and some white paint. Start over there with the arm and the elbow. We're going to jump about 2/3 of the way up the canvas, about 2 inches over, and make 2 lines about 45-degree angles cutting over. We're going to jump back down, go up about a third of the canvas, and we're going to get his hip started. You can kind of connect the wrist there, make a curved line. Then we'll jump up to do his head here. Start off with a little swoop with the patented chiseled chin. Go ahead and just kind of paint it as a V. Think of a bird flying like the old school way, and then paint the jawline going up and the concave face. You can then connect the shoulder and neck to each other. Don't worry about too much accuracy right now in terms of the shape of that line. We'll go ahead and iron it out. Jump back down to the forearm and go ahead and make a kind of sloped hill-like structure from the wrist up over towards where the back of the arm is. It's going to be the forearm. You can jump over and make the V of the gi just under his chin where his head's at. Swoop that back around and bring that over right to where the edge of his cheek is on the right side of the canvas. Bring the next line down. That'll be the outside of his gi, and file an angle about 45 degrees in towards where his waist would be and matching up with his wrist. Remember, you can always grab some gray paint to iron out any of the white sketchy paint that you're using. Think of it as like an eraser. And always use water with your acrylic paints. Be sure to grab a little water here and there to help things go a little smoother. You can see I marked the shirt line on the V there. I'm going back and I'm kind of ironing out the forearm a little bit more. You can see how it just kind of angles up. Think of like a little hill. Again, using gray paint to help iron out some of these shapes. Remember, you can always pause if you need to. Go ahead and make the egg shape there for the bicep. Another little curved line to go up for the shoulders. As far as the hands go, just think of the fingers as single brush strokes. Don't think about really too much detail on them. Just bring them down as a single brush stroke. Still using that number 2 round brush. And kind of create where the belt's at, as well as the start of his legs. About a 60-degree angle from the hand, kind of jut out. Jump over to the side there. You can see how I'm lining my brush up to get some angles. Kind of angle that shoulder and that far left knee together. Be sure to billow out, tucked underneath there. The bottom of that leg, that front leg. You can use the knee of that front leg to line up the curved portion of the back leg as well. Once you get down to the boots, remember he has long boots, so you want to bring those down pretty far there. Be sure to make that leg slightly smaller back there because it's receding. As far as the boots go, bring that line in and curve it around, almost like a bullet shape, with another bullet shape jutting out. You can use the gray as well here, again, to kind of reduce some of that front leg, make things work a little better for you here. Alright? Always use the gray if you need to. Don't forget about that water either. That front boot will go off the canvas, so don't worry about that. You can go ahead and make a nice sine curve as for the belt up there. You can jump up and iron out the head a little bit more, throw that ear on there, throw in some zigzags for the hair. This is where you can be creative and make them Super Saiyan if you want. We're making them base form here. Just follow along with those zigzags up. You can always pause if you need to here to see what I did with that hair. And use your gray to erase out any parts of the head you don't want, like the original head shape and the back of his head there. We're gonna go ahead and jet out this back arm as well. Again, fingers, just single brush strokes. Bring that back around. You'll just see his forearm there, as his shoulder and bicep are angled behind him based on the edge of the figure. Put his big old arc-shaped eyes in there. Go ahead and fill it in white since you have the white out. At this point, you can add any extra detail you need. Folds in the pants, the extra layer on the shirt, and then go ahead and make the big billows for your Nimbus. Bring the tail up and behind him. Remember, the tail's wider where it connects to Nimbus and gets thinner in the back. Alright, step 2, we're going to go ahead and paint the background. Grab that big brush and mix together 2 scoops of blue paint and a scoop of white paint. Now, just use it like a spoon and mix those two together. Go ahead and paint about 1/3 of the way down the canvas with that new mixture there. Use that big brush. You can use your smaller brush if you need to get tighter in by the hair and the shoulders. Over here under the arm to the edge of the Nimbus tail. Go ahead and just fill it in. We're just blocking in this color right now. Alright, we will after this go ahead and make a little lighter version of this blue and blend up into it for a nice gradient. We'll do that here in just a sec. So about that 1/3 of the way down, once you add another scoop of white to that previous mix, you can go ahead and start blocking in the bottom half of the sky. That's going to be everywhere next to the Nimbus and down at the bottom corner. And once you get real close up to that dark blue, use what's left on your brush to go up and down and get that the nice blend. If you need to use some of that previous blue as well to help blend down, you can. But just kind of go back and forth. Think of like you're doing a copy machine. Back and forth. Use the rest of that light blue to go ahead and paint down there by the Nimbus as well. And yeah, if you use a little too much paint, if it's a little thick there, let it dry for a minute. Otherwise, once you're ready to go, we can get ready to move on to filling out the Nimbus cloud. Alright, go ahead and clean off your big brush. Once it's clean, go ahead and grab a scoop of yellow paint and 2 scoops of white paint. Mix that together real good and go ahead and start filling out that cloud. Blocking in the color there. Again, if you need to jump into one of your smaller brushes, you can, just to kind of get in between the legs, help define the shape. Remember, if your blue paint was a little thick in the back, you can go ahead and let that dry before you start adding the yellow, the Nimbus cloud. That way, if you go over, you don't get any green. But once it's dry and you're ready to go ahead and fill that out. Now, once you go over to the back of the tail here, you can use the wide brush, but when you kind of get to the thinner areas, you can either use the wide brush and slightly tilt it as you get further down and use the sharp edge to get a thin line, or just jump to one of your small brushes. That is up to you. So if you want to accept that challenge, go ahead and be my guest. Alright, let's move on to the gi, shall we? Alright, we're still just blocking in color here. Go ahead and clean that big brush. You can use this to mix together your orange, just a scoop of orange, a scoop of yellow, and a dab of white paint. That means just dip it in and throw it in that mix. Use your smaller brush if you'd like to help fill it in. You can always use your big brush to block in color as I am here, but smaller brush will help get in between those lines. Again, we're just blocking in the orange. Go ahead and fill it out. Add a second layer if you want, but go ahead and once you're ready to go, we'll move on to the blue. Step 5, we're going to paint the blue sections of Goku, including his wristbands, shirt, boots. Go ahead and just mix together 1 scoop of blue and a dab of white paint. We'll add another coat later once we add the shadow, so don't worry about it too much right now. Go ahead and just fill those out there. At any time, you can always clean up backgrounds or anything too as you're going, little bits here and there. But once you're back in action, go ahead and just fill out those colors. Again, we're just blocking in colors right now. That way the blending processes and adding highlights and shadows comes real smooth later. Alright, so now we're going to start blocking in his skin tone. Go ahead and mix together a scoop of brown paint, 2 scoops of white paint, and just dab some orange in there as well. Go ahead and start blocking out the skin skin there. You can use your smaller brush, your flat number 5, or one of your round brushes. Be sure to leave some of the white lines we used to start off the painting with, even if you don't even paint all the way up to them. That way you have some indication of shape, and when we do the first layer of inking, you can be ready to go. Speaking of that, go ahead and clean your small brush and just grab black paint as is, and go ahead and outline the hair, and go ahead and block it in with that black paint as we go get that first coat going. Alright, and if you left some white lines for the arm and the rest of the body down there, you can go ahead and start with the small brush, preferably round 2 or 0, and just black paint. Go ahead and follow the indentions here. Again, you can always pause to see where I'm placing the muscles here in the arm. Alright, I'm outlining pretty much everything here. This is not the final outlining, but enough to kind of help me out for my own sake, help me reshape things, you know, kind of de-blob some of the areas. Alright, you can always erase the black paint since you're just putting it on. Be sure to always add a little water to it too. It'll help it smoothen out and kind of be more of an ink consistency. See how I chiseled the jaw there? I'm adding the inside of the shirt, and I'll start putting the details of the neck here as far as the throat and the chest muscles. Go ahead and pause and look at that if you need to. I can go ahead and get the ears going. One quick brush stroke for the eyes and eyebrows. A little nose there and a little mouth. And then make sure he's looking the right direction. You can always iron everything out here later. But again, these are just the initial lines, alright? Go ahead and outline the gi there. Get the pants started. Be sure you always put that double kind of edged line there for the middle of the pants. Jump down to the baggy sections. You can always see how I add the folds. They go down and away from each other. Here are the fingers. Pause this if you need to, but always start at the top of the hand and go down to the pinky. That way they overlap properly. Put that little thumb over there. They're not finished, but you can jump over here and do the same thing to this hand. Start at the bottom this time and move away. Alright, also go to the ear if you need to. That was quick. Outlining the boots here as well for you. Alright, again, just initial outlines and initial blocking of the hair. Alright, step 8, we're moving on to the clouds. Grab that big brush, make sure it's clean, and just grab some white paint. A little light at the end of it, and just start dabbing in the clouds here. We're just dabbing, doing a dab motion, alright? Keep dabbing them in, let the brush, the paint leave your brush, and just kind of start dry dabbing as you're going. Use the small brushes if you need to kind of make some sharper shapes of the clouds. You can go back over and make thicker areas with them as well. Just some fresh white paint. Make sure the top of the clouds are wider than the bottom. The bottom is usually where it starts kind of blending in with the atmosphere, or where you'll have the darker edges of the clouds. Don't be afraid either to butt some of those up to Goku so it looks like they're behind him. You can also see I'm putting those at an angle there. It make it seem like he's really flying fast through the atmosphere. Alright, you can always grab the original blue color as well and use it to kind of erase some of the clouds and make them sharper in instances. Paint underneath them, clean them up a little bit. Use a little paper towel to smudge if you need to, but just cleaning those up and making them a little more believable there, not so fluffy. Again, you can kind of just use some light white paint to reestablish anything, and then go ahead and use that blue mixture from the beginning to you know, fill out any gaps, clean up some orange there around the gi, and really make that sky nice and clean. Remember, always use your water with your paint, and pause this video if you need to stop and catch up. I'm not expecting you to paint this as fast as this is going right now, alright? Alright, we're going to go ahead and lighten up Nimbus, and also add some shadows. So go ahead and add 2 scoops of white and a half scoop of yellow, and go ahead and mix those together and get the left side of Nimbus, the top half of them, with some nice billowing brush strokes using that big flat number 10. You can also go ahead and mix the original batch. There's pretty much a scoop of yellow and a scoop of white to kind of recoat some of that original yellow if you need to. I did it back around about down by his feet, a little bit through his legs, and it'll also help for another base for the shadow of the cloud as well. For that, you're going to go ahead and add some black and some brown to that mixture you just did with yellow and white. If you need to, you can always add a little more yellow to it, but you want to get a kind of darker golden yellow like I have there. Again, you can always add just a little black at a time, and again, add that billowing effect. Kind of put the shadow behind him, all right, at an angle where he's standing at, and have that nice little divide. If you need to, pause the video. All right, mix a scoop of orange with a half scoop of brown and a half scoop of red. Go ahead and take your medium flat brush and make those sharp angles on the left side of his forward leg there. Go ahead and do it on the left side of his back leg as well. All right, these are gonna be the darker parts of his gi, as well as underneath his arm there, a little bit of tad, and then underneath that fold, on that top part of his gi. All right. You can also take that original orange there and help kind of block out the previous orange, kind of help give it a nice other layer before we start adding the highlights. That's pretty much just orange with a dab of yellow and white, but you can just kind of freshen up the rest of the gi there. Again, you can always jump back to your small brush and the darker orange and fill that back in. Kind of go back and forth and blend it. Use your small brush to kind of get up around that hand if you need to, and any of the tight spots there. Kind of go back and forth with these colors first before you jump into adding the highlights to the gi. All right. Now with the highlight, you're just going to essentially add some more white and yellow to your orange mix, the mix you just did to freshen up everything. All right, and that's going to help brighten up the pants in certain instances, add some more texture, as well as depth to the figure as he's flying high in the sky. All right, again, just a dab of white and a dab of yellow to that orange mix you had, using that small brush still, and just adding that to the opposite side of the shadow. Remember, shadow, if you're putting it on one side, make sure that highlight's on the other here. I'm not going to get super technical with you. I want you guys just to have fun with this. But remember, if you want to look good here, just make sure that highlight's on the opposite side of your shadow. Right? Again, you can always pause the video if you need to during these steps. Kind of take it when I'm doing. For example, here, I'm just adding some patchwork, adding a little brighter of a highlight there on the bottom of that gi to bring it down further over the edge of the belt there. Again, take your time and really get it how you like. This is going to be your painting after all, once you're done with it. So if you need to repair something, go ahead and do it. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and make our second coat of blue here and add some shadows to the blue. So a scoop of blue, half black and half white. All right, that's going to make another base coat for the blue. Be a little less particular with this. Kind of paint it more on the left side, but you don't have to be filled in all the way, because we'll be adding a darker blue as well. Just 2 scoops of blue, a scoop of white, and a scoop of black instead of half scoops. You can see that darker blue there. And I'll paint it on the right side of the boots down there, as well as the bottom half of the boot, and then we'll hit the right side of the V of the blue shirt and underneath the belt there. Just darker blue. Essentially just split those blue sections in half. Have a half light, half dark. Try to keep the light sides on the left side of them, and the dark blues on the right. All right, so now we're going to add a second coat for the skin tone, as well as start adding some highlights and shadow to the skin tone as well. So first off, mix this skin tone together, 2 brown, 1 white, and a dab of orange, and split that into 2 separate piles. In one pile, add an extra scoop of white paint to it. All right, and that's what we're going to use to start adding the brighter areas of the skin here. All right, so as I zoom into the arm, grab one of your smaller brushes, preferably one of the rounds. Hit that left side of his bicep there, top of his shoulder. You can see I'm keeping some of that previous darker skin tone there as a precursor for where my shadows will go. And I'm just cutting out some of it with this brighter skin tone. Hitting the left side of the neck, left side of that chest there. We'll go up into the face here, hitting the jawbone. Now again, left side here, left side of the face. I was thinking about halfway on the face, we'll stop there because we won't add any more highlight. That's when we'll come back and add the shadow later. But again, just going about halfway through the face. You add that little triangle of highlight under that right side of the canvas eye there. Hit the collarbone and the neck, little throat muscles there, and then we'll go ahead and move on. All right. Now, you're gonna go ahead and add a dab of black paint and a dab of brown paint to the other pile of paint you have sitting there to make a darker tone, and kind of follow where you left open. All right, just kind of reestablish those areas with that darker color. All right, around the muscles there, you can always pause and see how I place the shadows on the muscles. Obviously, don't pause it on my Goku hat there, but in between the fingers as well, underneath. If you're keeping the light on top, the shadows will go underneath. If you have it on the left side, shadows will be on the right. Think about how the muscles fold. You can go ahead and put a line underneath the highlight and underneath his neck there, his chin, because on his neck there, the chin will be creating a shadow. And then on the right side of his neck well there, you can always bring in a little lighter paint to kind of blend it in and keep the neck separated from the neck well. Go ahead and paint the shadow underneath the arm there as well. And then if you need to, every once in a while I'll grab another color and kind of fill in spots that I need to kind of iron out. I'm actually bringing the arm back a little bit there, and then I'm adding some shadow to the thumb, and then I'm bringing some of the shadow over to the right side of the face, underneath the hair there, underneath the lips and chin, behind the nose, because the light will be hitting that left side of the canvas. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and add another coat to the hair and a second coat for the outlines. Grab your small brush and just reestablish your black outlines there, clean them up. At this point, they're pretty easy to follow, but you can always, again, reestablish them. You can repaint them completely, paint out lines. If the black paint's dry at this point, you can, from the previous, the first coat, you can always paint over it and reestablish lines. But at this point, reestablish those original lines you did, add some new ones if you need to really make things stand out. Be sure to obviously use one of your smaller brushes, and be sure to add water to that black paint. It's going to make it more of an ink consistency. That way it's easier to paint these lines and some nice smooth effects. But you can see as I'm filling it out, it's really kind of starting to establish this Goku in space here. All right, really kind of solidifying him. And as I go, you can see just bringing down, lines there for the shirt. Again, if you need to, just erase out lines. Making sure I added that extra fold there to kind of add some more depth. Adding little lines in the belt, cleaning that up. Making sure the belt is separate from, itself, essentially. You can see here I'm cleaning up his jawline. I brought it in just a slight bit. Again, you can always use skin tone to help kind of iron it out. Reestablish his nose. Make the eyes, clean them up. Make the lines thinner by adding some more skin tone underneath them. There, I'm kind of reestablished the eyebrow a little bit because I messed up. But reestablishing underneath the jawline there. And then adding another layer to the hair with the black paint as well. Reestablishing some of the outlines, fingers as well on that side, cleaning that up. Right. Again, if you ever need to go and grab some previous colors to help, get in the edges around his fingers or hair, like the sky or, the Nimbus yellow, you can. All right. So we're always there to go back. And make sure to add any extra little wrinkles in the pants you want. Those little juts and wrinkles down there by the crotch and around that far knee there. Now you can always reestablish the lines on the boots as well. Now we'll be getting to the extra details on the boots here in just a second. But in the meantime, again, go ahead and give yourself another coat of black paint up in the hair now. After you've reestablished the lines, really fill that out because we'll be adding some highlights to that hair here in just a few All right, again, you can always, clean stuff up. All right, so now you're gonna go ahead and grab a scoop of red paint and a half scoop of white paint. Go ahead and mix it together. Take your small brush, follow the lines there I did for the red detail on the boots, and grab a scoop of yellow and a scoop of white, and add the little ropes on the cuffs of the boots and the bottom of the boot there. All right, the last step here, the 15th and final step. We're going to go ahead and essentially add the highlights to the hair and add touch-up to the painting. Touch-up, that means going by and making the bottom of Nimbus a little thicker. You can see I'm just using the darker yellow from earlier to kind of thicken up the bottom of the cloud there. Any touch-up around the ears or the shirt, or using any of the old colors like the oranges or blues. But oh yeah, and even the little dashes under his eyes. But once you're done with adding those little extra details, little lines on the arms and whatnot, you can go ahead and mix together a scoop of white paint and a dab of black paint to get that light gray and start forming the highlights on his hair there. Go ahead and follow along using the top sides of the hair. All right, for that second one on the right side there where I'm blending now, that one you're going to have that highlight opposite of the top one because it's creating itself a shadow. We can always blend that out. Right, add any extra bits of hair that you feel like you want to there, little strands hanging off. Clean up around the wrist if you need to. Again, you're just adding any extra details you want or fixing any areas that really need attention at this point. Going back, adding little bits of highlights if you want, just using some real bright, just an extra little bit of white in that skin mix if you want to add some extra shine to those muscles. Again, you can always add some more white paint to the clouds or highlights on Nimbus. You can clean up anything you need here. This is your chance. As we're finishing up, I'm adding an extra little strand of hair there, kind of blending it in. But ultimately, guys, I hope you enjoyed this instructional of how to paint Goku on the Flying Nimbus. I know it was a lot, and I know it's real detailed, but hey, YouTube's for pausing, right? And you guys can pause through this, check out the steps, and pause a nice picture there. Look at that as we finish. And I hope you guys are looking forward to the next one. Be sure to find me on Twitter or Instagram and tag me in the Goku you created. And until next time, guys, I'll see ya. Peace.